In sports, there are some fantastic rivalries, which produce epic contests on the field because we all know how much hate and dislike fuels athletic prowess, and the occasional cheap shot. But in the cases of some rivalries, the heated action from the pitch spills over into the stands, and sometimes even beyond. Here are the 5 most violent rivalries in the history of sport, both on and off the field. And yes, soccer will be included. Before I get that cheddar, today. Okay, so I have to get a couple things clear here. This is not a list for the best rivalries. To me, that is an entirely different video. This is for the most violent, so my fellow North Americans, you might be surprised by this list. In our society where we are so sheltered we can argue for days over which amazing smartphone is the best, versus starving to death, we have nothing on violence at the international level. You'll see what I mean. Number 5, Steelers versus Bengals. Apparently, this is not only one of the most violent on-field rivalries in football, it is also the most triggering. You have Vontaze Burfict headhunting on receivers and Adam Jones claiming it was a clean play. You have Juju cashing a check in the form of Vontaze Burfict's ass and AB yelling karma in the background. And that's just recent. Let's look at some of the brutal on-field incidents that have happened during the course of this rivalry. 2005, Kimo von Oelhoffen tearing up Carson Palmer's ACL like a losing lottery ticket and causing the NFL to change hitting rules to the QB. 2008, Hines Ward breaking Keith Rivers' jaw. We've covered this. 2016, Joey Porter coming onto the field to scuffle with Adam Script Club Jones after the Burfict hit, the same game that saw Big Ben get beat up so bad he questioned letting his son play football. And of course this year, Ryan Shazier, the previously mentioned Juju hit, and threaded throughout is the Bengals blowing leads in ways that even the Mets would be embarrassed by. Number 4, Joe Frazier versus Muhammad Ali. You can say I'm copping out by picking a violent sport such as boxing for a violent rivalry. However, these two dudes really did not like each other. So much so that not only did it get ugly inside the ring, but it got ugly outside of the ring as well. The first of 3 matches between these two was in 1971 when both fighters were undefeated and both claimed the heavyweight title. The bout took place at MSG in front of a raucous crowd both inside and outside of the venue, with Frazier winning a decision over Ali and Ali never ever admitting he was defeated. That really pissed Frazier off as the rematch was set, and during a pre-fight media appearance, Frazier and Ali got into it on live TV. The second match ended with Ali winning a decision, setting up the epic Thrilla in Manila. Before the third and final bout, Ali constantly mocked Frazier with verbal jabs and insults, basically one of those guys who plays Madden online and talks major shit. Frazier was a little more calm as he hit the mute button on Ali, but in one of the most epic and violent boxing matches of all time, it would finally be decided. Of course, all of that anger and rage culminated in maybe the most famous and iconic sports photograph of all time, with Ali standing over Frazier in the 14th round, winning via TKO, not without a little controversy as the fight was called before the 15th. Both fighters exhausted. Each fighter would suffer lasting damage from the fight as they never met again in the ring and essentially dwindled in ability from laying it all out on the line. I'm not sure if the two ever got along, but Frazier did earn Ali's respect. Number 3, Zorinsky and Velez. Most sports rivalries are divided by geography or simple dislike between opponents, or maybe two teams that don't like the color the other guys are wearing. Or you can have a rivalry that spans across politics, religion, socioeconomics, and civil war. Once part of a unified Yugoslavia, Bosnia and Herzegovina gained independence in 1992 after a bitter civil war that pitted ethnic groups against each other in a bloody and unruly time. Once the dust settled, a rivalry began in 2000 called the Mostar Derby between two teams, the long-established Velez and Zorinsky, a team that had been banned by communism for half a century and reborn as independence was being gained in the early 90s. Both of these clubs were literally at war at one point, essentially an ethnic and religious battle between the Catholic Croatians and largely Muslim Bosnians. Almost every matchup in the series has been characterized by violence unheard of in North America, culminating with fans storming the field in 2011 and attacking the players on the pitch. Violence extends outside of the stadium as well, including fights, riots, and general malaise, as it seems a lot more than soccer superiority is at stake, as the matchup is also used to garner political support and stoke tensions between the two rival factions of supporters in an all-around pretty ugly affair that really takes hooliganism to the next level. And we're over here arguing about what is the safest way to play a violent sport when they over there trying to kill each other over a soccer match. Number 2, India versus Pakistan, cricket. I have a great idea. Let's take two nuclear-armed nations that have been feuding over their borders for centuries and competing for resources in a near-barren region with vastly different religious and political ideologies, and then have them play cricket once or twice a year. What's the worst that could happen? Now let's get something clear. India and Pakistan don't need cricket as an excuse to fight. The two nations have been at odds with each other since the Brits essentially screwed up the region and divided it by ethnicity and religion. But almost immediately after the nations were established, the rivalry began in the 50s with some excellent cricket and escalating violence and hate. In 1999, in front of a crowd of more than 465,000 spectators in Calcutta, India, a riot broke out where the stadium had to be nearly emptied and the contest had to be played in front of a scant crowd, with Pakistan eventually winning. Other aspects of the rivalry include tremendous pressure on the athletes to win, occasional violence outside and inside the stadium, heated arguments, and the only time you will hear your IT department talk about sports of any kind. Hey, I talked about cricket, people. Before I get into the number 1 most violent sports rivalry, here are a few honorable mentions. Real Madrid versus Barcelona, Celtic FC versus Rangers FC, Dodgers versus Giants, and the Maple Leafs versus the Canadiens. Also, anybody who thinks there is a violent basketball rivalry, this is an actual NBA fight. Number 1, Honduras versus El Salvador, the football war. Okay, so most rivalries, even at their most violent, spark a few skirmishes, maybe an overturned car or two, a few dumpster fires, and that's it. But not many have sparked an all-out war like what happened between Honduras and El Salvador in 1969. Tensions had been building between the two countries for quite some time, as many Salvadorians had been migrating to Honduras, and the landowners and fruit growers did not like this, as tensions began to rise and violence began to break out as Salvadorans were being forced out of the country. Though the violence and war had technically begun earlier in the year, it culminated during a World Cup qualifier between the two nations in 1969, a game El Salvador won 3-0, and essentially the ensuing anger spilled over into a full-fledged war between the two nations that lasted 9 days and saw about 900 Salvadorans dying and 2,100 Hondurans dying in the conflict. Even after a ceasefire was issued, both teams were rightfully banned from the World Cup in 1970, and eventually peace was restored to the area, with the rivalry carrying on, with Honduras dominating play over El Salvador with 18 wins, 8 losses, and 6 draws. Though the rivalry is relatively peaceful now, you still can't top a game that started a freaking war with over 3,000 people dying, can you? It's all good. I'll be over here arguing over what a catch is. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and especially don't forget to download the FanDuel app and use my code Touchdown87 and get a free entry into the NFL Sunday Millions contest. And for those of you who get easily triggered, go pound sand or something. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to the end of this video.